In many discussions, there's a mix-up of EU terms, EU institutions, of treaties, and that has a big impact on the Brexit discussions in many cases as well. And that's what I want to talk about in this video. So let's just get started. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another episode of EU Explained. Today with a little more tendency to Brexit as well. There are many institutions in the EU, there are many different treaties and a lot of terms that are confusing people a lot of times. I can hear that in the discussions and I can see that on many comments, especially in Brexit discussions I see. And one of my viewers, who I'm very grateful to, brought me to that topic, that it would be necessary to make a video on that, just to give some short introductions into many things I was planning to make longer videos for each one about in the next weeks. So thank you, John, and I'm sorry, but your idea didn't let me go that easily, so this video will come a little bit earlier than I promised. But let's just get started. I want to start with the EU single market. Please don't mind that I have all my papers for my longer videos in my hands, but I need to have a quick look sometimes. So I won't tell you a mix-up myself, because that's really a lot of stuff, especially if I've translated all the German stuff into English. So the EU single market is always mixed up with the customs union, and the point of the freedom of movement included in that is always mixed up with the freedom of work abroad. So let's have a look at the single market. The single market allows the citizens of all EU states to freely travel between all EU countries. The single market allows goods, services, capital, and people to travel freely inside the market. To travel freely inside the market. It is the aim of the EU as a whole that everyone can study, live, shop, work, or be a pensioner in any of the states. But the single market only says goods, services, capital, and people can move freely inside this market. So there's nothing about work in there. And it has nothing to do with tariffs. Because there we get to the customs union a little bit later, but now I want to talk about the freedom of working. The freedom of working is a core part of the membership of the EU. It has nothing to do with a single market. It is a core piece of the EU membership. So every citizen of an EU member state can work in another EU member state. That is a core part of the EU treaties. I just want to make this clear because I very often hear that single market means everybody from an EU state can work in every EU country. No, they can, because it's a core part of the EU membership, not of the single market. And then there's the European Customs Union. The Customs Union means that there are no tariffs between the member states. But the Customs Union is not exclusive for EU member states. There are other states involved in this. First of all, for example, Monaco, and for the British viewers will be interesting, Akrotiri, Dekelia, Guernsey, Isle of Man and Jersey are substantial parts of the customs union. The customs union means that there will be no tariffs, there will be no limits on the amounts of goods that can be traded between these countries, with a few exceptions. That is fuel, tobacco, alcohol, and coffee. Everything else, there is no limit to amounts, and there are no tariffs between the member states of the customs union. And another point to make clear that this is not EU exclusive is Andorra and San Marino, they are both not members of the EU, are part of the customs union, and even Turkey has a part customs union with the EU. And there are some extra conditions for Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norwegen because of the European economy zone. I'll talk about this a little bit later. Then there's the Schengen-Treaty, which is often brought up in the Brexit discussions. The Schengen-Treaty is a treaty. All the countries that are taking part in the Schengen treaties have agreed not to have border checks on their borders to the other member states. But they have the duty to protect the outside borders if they have any. And I just want to quickly give you the list of these states because you will see something quite curious, perhaps the one or the other if you don't know. Because the member states are Belgium, Denmark, Germany, Estonia, Finland, France, Greece, Iceland, Italy, Lithuania, Liechtenstein, Latvia, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands, Norway, Austria, Poland, Portugal, Sweden, Switzerland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Czech Republic, and Hungary. And I guess you heard some countries who are no EU members, like Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein, and so on. And I think you missed some countries there, because only 22 of these countries are members of EFTA. That's another thing I'm going to talk about later. And there are many EU countries who are not part of this. There's, first of all, Romania, Bulgaria, Croatia, and Cyprus, who will join the Schengen treaties as soon as they fulfill all the conditions to take part. And, more important, especially for the Brexit discussions, Ireland and the United Kingdom are not part of the Schengen treaties. They had the options not to opt out, and they didn't want to get in. So the Schengen Treaty won't have any impact on Brexit because Ireland and the UK are no members of the Schengen treaties. Then there's EFTA, the European Free Trade Association. That is a little bit older one. It was founded in 1960, and they wanted to get a push to the growth and wealth of the member states and to deepen the trade between these countries. And there were many countries at that time that were not part of the European economy group that now is the EU. And like that time, Denmark, United Kingdom, who were not part of the EU at that time, and still Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and so on. And today, there are only a few countries left in there. That's Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Switzerland. And together they built, without Switzerland, but with the rest of the EU, they built the European Economy Zone or European Trading Zone. That's a deepened free trade organization. That's the EWR, as we call it in German. And it's a bit like the single market. They have the freedom of movement of goods, persons, services, and capital, with special regulations for agriculture, and it's the biggest economy zone of the world. And that is, to be clear again, a deal between the European Union and the EFTA. So you see there are a lot of regulations, treaties, and so on that are dealing with economy, and they are not all integral parts of the EU. There are sometimes only treaties between the EU and other states. By the way, the EWR, which must be EER in English. Sorry again, I always have the German stuff and I'm translating them on the go. If that's an amount like this, especially when my preparations for a lot of videos. The United Kingdom will not be part of that anymore after Brexit. They are now part of it, but will not be part of it anymore after Brexit. And then I want to give you some short points about some of the EU institutions again. There's the European Parliament, of course. That's the European organ of legislation. This is voted by the people every 5 years. You know that. We just had European elections. I know the British viewers, for some of you were elections you didn't want to take part, but you had to. Then there's the European Commission, and many might say this is a kind of a European government, but it's not absolutely like this. They cannot make the laws on their own. That's what the Parliament is for. But they do execute what the European Parliament and the European Council wants. What the European Council, and even worse, we'll get to later. They are taking care of how much money is spent. They are, just in short, the executive. I don't want to get too long in this video about this. Because there are two institutions that can easily be mixed up, and they are. There's, for once, the European Council. The European Council usually is meeting 4 times a year, and it will do again on the 17th of October. This is the one that's always talked about. The European Council are the heads of states of the 28 heads of governments of the 28 member states, plus the president of the European Commission and the president of the European Council. So that's the 28 heads of government of the member states, plus now Jean-Claude Juncker, from 1st of November Ursula von der Leyen, and now still Donald Tusk. And this is the highest level of political cooperation between the EU member states. And this council is setting the political agenda for the whole EU. There are a lot of other tasks that it responsible for, but that I'll do in a different video. But I wanted to mention this, of course, to get the difference between the European Council and the Council of the European Union, which is another institution, because they are meeting much more often when it's necessary, and the European Council has no strict members like the heads of governments in the European Council. The Council of the European Union, its members depend on what political area is discussed about at the meeting. That means usually the ministers of that area. And this is the council. The Finnish Prime Minister is, or Finland is now the chair of now for 6 months, or for the second 6 months in this year. They are also seated in Brussels, but they are joining with the necessary ministers of every country to discuss certain political areas, to set certain, discuss certain rules for special political areas. For example, if there's a matter of environment, all the environmental ministers would meet in the Council of the European Union. Or if there is some financial stuff, the ministers for finance or in the UK, the Chancellor would meet up in this council. So it always depends on the topic. But this is not the council everyone is talking about for the 17th of October. So once again, 17th of October, heads of governments, European Council, the council where the ministers discuss all the topics, is the Council of the European Union. They could have found better names, I guess. And there's another thing between these two. In the European Council, there is a veto, because if one country says no, it's no. In the Council of the European Union, there can be a lot of majority decisions. So there's another difference between these two. Then something that's brought up a lot in the Brexit discussions, which has nothing to do with Brexit, is the Eurozone. The Eurozone is just the group of these EU countries that have the euro as a currency. So the United Kingdom still has the pound, is not a member of the Eurozone, so Brexit won't impact the Eurozone. And in this case, Britain won't be impacted by Brexit. There's also the Euro group. That has to do a bit with the Council of the European Union. When it's about the euro, the ministers for economy and ministers for finance of the member states of the Eurozone meet up to discuss these things. There's another possible meeting of the Council of the European Union, but not all 28 ministers of all the member states will be involved in that one. Then there's the European Central Bank. The European Central Bank is always brought up with its impact on Britain and so on in the Brexit discussions as well. The main part of their job is to take care of the euro. Once again, it doesn't impact the United Kingdom. Of course, they are looking after inflation and the stability of the European banking system and so on, but really big part of their work has to do with the euro, and so it won't affect Brexit at all. I will make a longer video about this, but I just want to give some quick hints here. Then there's the Court of the European Union. The Court of the European Union is responsible that all member states are following EU law. That's correct. And this will have the effect in case of Brexit, especially no deal Brexit, the EU court won't be responsible for the UK anymore. That is correct. Once again, there will be a much longer video about this, but I just want to bring that small topic up because there's another court in Europe, and that's the European Court for Human Rights. The European Court for Human Rights does have a seat in Strasbourg, but to say very easy, a little bit simplified, but it's the easiest to understand that way, it has nothing to do with the EU. The European Court for Human Rights is based on the European Human Rights Convention. And it doesn't matter if you are a member of the EU. This court is responsible for you if you ratify the European Human Rights Convention. So Brexit won't change anything there. The fun part in this is, which I want to add, although I'll make another video on that one as well, the European Union as a whole hasn't joined this convention yet. So the European Union even has less to do with this court. They're not even as a whole a member. All the member states have ratified this convention, but the European Union itself hasn't yet, although there is an article in the treaties that they have to. So they definitely will, but they haven't yet. So I hope I could bring some clarity into some of these points to show some differences between these points for the future discussions, because there was a lot of mix-up of these things, especially in the range of single market, freedom of movement, customs union, freedom of work. There was a lot always put in one pot, stirred well, and then let's have it. For now, I want to say thank you for watching. If I made a mistake somewhere, of course, you know where the comments go. But anyway, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. For now, I just wish you a good day and see you soon.